Vikings Report Rewind. We're back, bigger and better than ever. Well, some of us are fatter than ever, but we're still better than ever. Hopefully, even above average.
I feel seen.
To my internet, right? That would be Drew Bunning, co-host of mine with Vikings Report, Drew and Ted. Internet quarter that direction. Christopher Gates, our co-host on Vikings Report Rewind, our live post-game show. And if you haven't noticed, you're dumb, because directly below me, we have the one, the only, the Vikings Twitter legend, the Queen of X. No, wait, hold on. Let's just say Vikings Twitter Queen.
What?
Sal Spice. Sal, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, you guys. I'm so excited to be here, finally.
Yeah, it's about time. Thanks so much for joining us. We're so glad you could make it with to be on our show this evening.
Well, thank you for asking me. I mean, we've only been friends for like 14 years, so.
You know, I was thinking about this the other day. So, Sal, I've known you since like 2009 and like the OG days of Vikings Twitter.
Yep.
Chris, I've known you since 09, yep. Since I started writing for Daily Norseman. Drew, I've known you for like 4 or 5 years, and we have, like, I think, a really great show. And other than a lunch Chris and I had when you were driving cross country from the East Coast to the West Coast, we've never met.
No, and one of these days we'll tell the story about how you and my wife almost got into a fight over the check at the time we had dinner together. But that's a different story for another time. We don't want to bore people with that kind of thing right now. But,
I wish you would have left. I wish you would have left out the check part and just said they almost got in a fight.
Yeah, that would
have been like. That would have been. I would have been so juicy. I would have been trying to find out all about that.
Context matters, I think, kind of. But yeah,
not anymore, man. It's 21st century America. No context doesn't matter for me.
Yeah,
clickbait. Right. You could have titled it that and never even talked about it.
Eight clicks are still clicks, baby. That's what they're there for.
All right, look, we got a great show tonight. Because we're live, we've got the live chat going on. As always, what we do for our live shows, to enter to win a prize, all you got to do is make a comment. Say hey, say what's going on, whatever. We'll be looking at comments throughout the show. Ruby is in the background. Hi, Ruby. How are you? Hope you're doing well. We'll put comments up on the screen, and we'll answer them as we go along. So make a comment. We're going to spin the Toots' Wheel of Destiny at the end.
Yeah.
Go to VikingsReport.com to check out our prize vault. It's awesome. We got a lot of great stuff coming up. We're going to talk about training camp. But before we get going, Sal, our special guest, tell us where we can find you, your content, all that kind of stuff. Vikings related.
Well, I'm in a little bit of a transition period right now with my content, but Sal Spice on all of the channels with no space. And then my podcast that I do on KFAN's network will be back next week, which is Sports and the City. And I believe in Vikings with Bryant McKinney and Dustin Baker on Wednesdays. And starting next week, I'm working with Tailgate Spices to I can't reach it. Tailgate Spices, and I'm going to be interviewing some Vikings legends and making some content for them. So very exciting.
Nice. Really? Look at Vikings. Can you name drop?
Well, I can, but I'm going to need help from you guys with these questions because little before my time. But I'm going to have.
That's what we're saying. We're old guys. That's just okay.
We're going to have Sammy White, Fran Tarkenton, Eller, some of those guys. So
shut the front door.
Some of those guys.
Nice.
Just some of those guys, Ted.
Just some of those guys.
Dude, you might have heard of. I mean,
Yeah, you might have heard of them. So they wanted me to go to France like in a couple weeks. But then I realized it was during the preseason game, like the Saturday night preseason game, and I can't miss that. So,
wow.
Okay. Look, there's no judging. There's no judging on decisions here, but that's a choice.
I mean, a parking lot in Minneapolis or Tarkenton's. I don't know. What do I choose?
Yeah. Go with your gut. Do what your gut tells you.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Look, we got, again, if you're just joining us, we got special guest Sal Spice here talking Vikings training camp. Sal, one of the reasons we had you on tonight is because you've been at a couple training camp practices. You were at the one today. Just give us, what were your quick impressions of today's practice? Anything stand out to you at all?
Well, here's the thing, guys. None of you have been to TCO training camp, right? since it moved to Egan. So you really cannot see even nearly as well as you could at Mankato because there's no possibility to sit on the sideline. So you're just on one end. So honestly, I know this isn't great. I didn't see anything that great today. I saw JJ and KJ playing catch, which was really fun.
That's riveting stuff.
Kirk Cousins was in a 66 jersey today, and it really threw me off because it was a very big, bulky quarterback's jersey, and I'm like, who the heck is that? So I was looking in the guide, and it was, gosh, who is it? Anyway, it took me a while to figure out that it was actually Kirk Cousins because they were far away, But our guy, our 5th round pick out of BYU, didn't see him throw one pass. So what's going on with that?
Yeah.
Jaron Hall?
Yeah.
You got to cut him. Bust.
Yeah, I know. I don't even understand what he's doing here.
All right. So overall, though, look, there's a lot going on with the Vikings. The storylines I have seen so far is Kirk and Justin Jefferson are like super dialed in. Jordan Addison looks as shifty on the field as he does shifting gears in his Lambo doing 140 on I-94.
Hey, in his defense, he was trying to save his dog.
That's right.
Allegedly.
Hey, you're burying the lead here, Ted. The dog is okay, and that's what's important here.
Ted, I was dying at what you said about John Wick.
Look, it's true.
It is true.
John Wick killed 450 dudes because somebody killed his dog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Addison's just going a little bit over the speed limit, and everybody wants to crucify him. I don't know, whatever.
You wouldn't see a cat person killing 450 people over this cat.
No.
Why not?
So, look, one of the things, though, was wide receiver depth. It was kind of a question mark coming in at some point, but, Drew, it looks like the wide receiver depth questions are starting to be answered a little bit.
I believe so. I believe hasn't Naylor's had a pretty good camp so far. I've been hearing a lot about him, and they have a little bit of depth there, and I think I'm excited to see what they can do. The Vikings could end up with the best passing attack in the league because if Addison, who I ranked number 1 on my big board, I actually had him right up there with Amon St. Brown, another USC guy. And when I looked back on my draft write-ups for that, if he is what he can be, the guy in the slot with the ball and the Vikings offense should be crazy. And I'm concerned with the, non-aggressiveness they've had ever since Zimmer was here. I think they could do a lot more with stepping on the gas and putting people away. That's still a part of the Viking game we haven't seen. And they got all the weapons to do it. I know Cook's gone, but Addison, let's get straight. Addison is a tremendous talent. He is. He's a very natural receiver, much like Will Fuller was at Notre Dame. They seem to know how to get open in the zones. They seem to know where the defenders are around him all the time. Go look at the tape of USC, what he did. He's really, really good.
Chris,
I'm happy with the pick.
Chris, based on what Addison has done so far in camp, do you see him being wide receiver 2, a starting guy coming out of camp?
I mean, I don't know if he's going to be wide receiver 2 right away, just because he's got to get past KJ Osborne, who over the last couple of years has been incredibly impressive as well. But the Vikings from the last year under Zimmer to the first year under O'Connell went from running just about no 3 wide receiver sets to running 3 wide receiver sets all the time. So, obviously Jefferson's your number 1 guy, but number 2, number 3 between Osborne and Addison, I don't think it's going to be that great a distinction. They're both going to be on the field quite a bit, and they're going to be able to shift those guys around depending on situations and whatnot. But I think Addison has all the potential to be the number 2 guy behind Jefferson, just because of the things that Drew was talking about, his route running ability, his ability to get open, and he can turn short passes into long passes in a hurry. So that's the kind of thing this offense needs.
Sal, how do you see this wide receiver battle shaking out? You think Addison's going to be number 2 guy, and does Jalen Reagor even make the squad this year, even though he's been having a good camp by most accounts?
I think that he should make the roster, and I really want him to. I think it's a great story if he does end up being here and being successful. So I'm definitely rooting for him. And he has got a lot of playing time in camp, at least the 2 days that I was there. He got a lot of action today. Also, Powell has gotten a lot of action with the first as well, which was interesting to me. I know he's bounced around a lot and was with O'Connell in LA, so he's familiar with him, but he's getting a lot of action. And one I think we can just move on from probably is Blake Prowl.
No!
How many years is he going to just be around?
Sal, do you miss Chad Beebe?
He's like he's the new Chad Beebe.
Yes, he is.
100%.
We must have a Chad Beebe, Blake Prohl-ish guy to root against on the roster every year. We just have to. It's like federal law.
I'm just saying I've never seen Chad Beebe and Blake Prohl in the same room at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a very good point. I mean, in all fairness, that was Adam Thielen, back in the day. Always being on the practice squad and all of that. So, but I mean, come on, I think that his time has passed. So, and yeah, I'd really like Rager to make the team.
One guy that was really making an impression, and he kind of was starting to make an impression last year, was Tristan Jackson. It looked like he got hurt today. And there I saw a couple different things. Some people said he was holding on to his knee. A couple other people said it might have been a hamstring. I have not gotten any word from any official capacity of what the type of injury it is. But, man, you just hate to see something like that with a guy that was fighting for one of those last roster spots, really making a push, and then have something like this happen to him, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how good his chances were of making the 53 out of camp or anything. He's been impressive so far by all accounts. I mean, he might have ended up being a practice squad guy, so hopefully his injury isn't too bad, or we'll have to see what happens with him. But yeah, you don't want to see that kind of thing. That whenever we do our game stories for the preseason game, the only thing we put on the thing for our keys for the game is that nobody gets hurt, because other than that, nobody cares. So and you hate to see, like I said, that kind of thing happen to a guy that was apparently having a solid camp to this point. So hopefully it's not as bad as it sounds.
Real quick, we're closing in on 200 people in our show right now. That's awesome. Thanks for joining us. Make a comment. You'll be eligible to win a prize. Toons is going to spin a wheel. While you're here, after the show, head on over to Purple Pain Forums. That's purplepainforums.com or vikingsreport.com. Vikingsreport.com is where our prize vault is. Purple Pain Forums is a great message board, Vikings fan website. The moderator over there, Funky Town, she does a tremendous job of like collecting all the news that's fit to print in terms of training camp news, puts it in one thread there. You can get caught up if you miss. You're at work. You can't scroll Twitter like I can as a federal government employee during the day, but whatever. So head on over to Purple Pain Forums and enter to win a prize, and we'll spin at the end of the show. All right. So yes, go ahead, Sal.
We didn't talk about Lucky Jackson, which
have you talked about
his name.
Tito or Michael
or Samuel?
Well, for that, I just want to say we're sorry, Miss Jackson.
I just think with a name like Lucky, he deserves a spot. That's all I know.
Yeah, he'd be lucky to make the practice squad.
I'm in. Lucky Jackson.
Lucky for Mr. Mankato.
I would take Lucky over Blake Prohl.
Well,
yeah.
Jeez, dude, come on.
I mean, I'm just saying. All righty. So Lucky, Tito, and Jermaine Jackson are fighting for that last Jackson spot on the Vikings roster. All right, running back situation. Alexander Madison got hurt today. Looks like he pulled a hammy.
Come on, Ted. What?
Yeah.
What is going on? We don't want injuries, Ted. We do not like what's coming out of your mouth right now.
Well, just wait, because it gets better. Hey, so, since we're talking running backs, do you think it matters, though? Because most people were wanting to see Kene Nwangwu, Ty Chandler, and Dwayne McBride get more run anyways, and I think this gives them an opportunity to do that without really risking Madison's spot as a starter. I don't know. Am I dumb there?
No, I mean, Madison's the number one guy. You know what you have in Madison already, and I know we saw Nwangwu and Chandler a little bit last year in the preseason, and they looked all right, and I'm looking forward to seeing Dwayne McBride, because I think that guy is going to be a dark horse guy to, if not be the number 2 guy before too much longer, to eventually start for this team. But we'll see how that goes. But no, you don't have to risk Madison too much. He you know what you have. He's been here 4 years. He's the number 1 guy. So we'll see how it goes.
I got some great comments coming in, Drew. What are your thoughts on
Lucky Luciano?
On Lucky Luciano, yeah, Lucky Luciano.
He and my uncle used to go to the racetrack all the time.
On Madison's injury, you think it's a big deal? I just think it's a great opportunity for these backup guys to get some run.
And that's what we need to find out. This whole running back thing is going to be interesting going into the season. Cook, I understand what happened. The money, I understand everything about Cook. But there isn't a running back on this team better than Cook. Those long run, that Buffalo run. Matter of fact, you know that Buffalo 80-yard run?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In the second quarter, he ran that same play, and Justin Jefferson missed the block on the safety, or he would have had another 80-yard run.
True.
He's a very, very special running back. I understand why we had to move on, but I'm anxious, concerned, but I'm also excited to see what the committee brings. I know what Madison is. Madison's not going to run you 80 yards for a touchdown, but he runs hard. When you watch the tape, he reminds me of who's the rookie Chris just mentioned?
Dwayne McBride.
I think McBride's going to end up being the best out of all of them. He is exciting to watch, and he runs he's a piss missile, like you call it, Ted. But let's see what happens. Let's see. We're moving on from Cook. Other guys get a chance. I think Ty Chandler's a good change of pace back. He's quick. He's elusive. He's kind of shifty. They got a good variety to choose from. Let's use them. Let's get the play calling. Let's get the screens out there. I mean, who's going to catch the screen? Cook catches that screen against the Colts. Gone. Yeah. Catches that screen against Green Bay. Gone. That's what we relied on with Cook. And if it takes 4 guys to make the Cook thing happen, let's do it. But I don't know. I have no idea how it's going to work.
Sal, where are you sitting with the Vikings running backs? You like what they have on the roster right now?
I agree with what you said about Madison sitting out for a little bit so we can learn a lot more about them, because I'm intrigued by all of them. I want to see if they're going to work Kane in more other than just, the return game, because he's not getting many opportunities there. So if he isn't going to really have a lot of chances at that specialty role, what can he do in the backfield? Because then he might, if they don't have that spot for him anymore, he might be the odd man out, I think.
Yeah, which is kind of surprising to me, because when he got drafted, I thought he was going to be the guy that would take over for Cook. I mean, he's got that breakaway speed that Drew talks about, and I agree. You've got to have a dude that can house it from anywhere on the field. And I maybe McBride can. I don't think he's got the top end speed, Drew, like you were talking. He's closer to Madison in that regard. Ty Chandler's a very intriguing guy. He looked good in very limited action last year, but I don't know if he has that extra gear that Dalvin Cook seemed to have when he got into open field. We'll see. I like it though. I'm not, the thing about Madison, if it is a hamstring, again, those are one of those things. He could be okay in like 3 or 4 days, and this might linger into the regular season. So what the Vikings were thinking they were going to do with the running back room might have to be altered a little bit. We'll just have to play that by ear. So it's something to keep an eye on as we move forward, heading to the preseason games. Yes, sir, Mr. Bunting.
We know what we got with Madison. He doesn't need to play in the preseason. It's like he doesn't need to.
That's true.
No, he doesn't.
I wanted to ask Sal Spice. By the way, I have a list of questions for you at the end of the show, Sal.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Well,
I don't know if you've ever seen our show with guests on here before, but it might get a little tough.
I hope I don't mess up like I already did between Fran Tarkenton and Tommy Kramer earlier.
You know what's good about the Drew questions? You can't mess up.
A lot of pressure. Ted Glover makes me nervous. So
no.
I want
to ask Sal Spice. Do you think the blocking assignments for the running backs have something to do with why Wang Wu hasn't got everybody Wang Chung tonight? He hasn't got, like you said, he hasn't had a lot of carries. I know coaches are real strict on the blocking assignments, that you got to be able to block and pick up the blitz. Is that where he's lacking? Is that why he hasn't got out there a lot?
That probably has a lot to do with it. And I think that this year it's going to be interesting to see what tight ends they keep, because who's going to be helping out blocking from the tight end perspective. because obviously Hawkinson is too valuable in the pass game to be helping with that. But that probably does have a lot to do with it. And just kick returns, the NFL just keeps taking away their impact. So he doesn't necessarily need a roster spot for that.
Sure.
Anymore.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned Sal, you mentioned tight ends. Josh Oliver looks like he might be kind of a guy he was under the radar signing, making a little bit of noise in camp as TJ Hawkinson's backup. And it looks like they're using more 2 tight end sets than most people thought at the end of last year, because they've been very impressed with Oliver, not only as a pass catcher, but as a run blocker, as you just alluded to, Sal. So, Chris, would you be disappointed if the Vikings go back to like the Mike Zimmer? We're going to put in 2 tight ends and run it off tackle 56 times, and we're going to win 14-7.
I absolutely would be, because this defense isn't going to hold a lot of teams to 7 points. I mean, it's not the Mike Zimmer 2017 defense anymore. But they brought Oliver in for a reason, obviously, and I saw someone say in the chat, that dude is huge. He's a very large human being, so he's going to end up helping with the blocking quite a bit. But yeah, I know I don't think they have really quite the personnel last year to do as many 2 tight end sets. I mean, I know they brought Hawkinson in, and Johnny Munt is kind of a cult hero for some folks, but I think Josh Oliver has kind of been brought into it to be the second tight end, and I think he's going to have a lot more impact in the passing game than some people might think he's going to have. But he's definitely been brought in here to be a blocker. So I think we do see a lot more 2 tight end sets. Not to the extreme that we saw it under Mike Zimmer, obviously, but I think we'll see it more than what we saw last year.
It's Hawkinson, Oliver, and Munt Cake. Those are your tight ends.
Yeah, probably.
Nothing Munt touchdowns. Yeah.
Well, hopefully the line is better this year too, and they don't need as much help with tight end blocking.
I want to talk about the line in just a second, but I gotta mention John Errico. If drop this comment, if we go back to the Zim days, I may start watching basketball again. He's had a couple of he's had a couple of off the top rope kind of
let's not say things that we can't take back. I mean, Jesus, that's harsh.
He might be in looking for a prize.
One more good comment by Erica. We're gonna give him a prize.
We give prizes out for comments. We give prizes out for sarcastic comments. We give prizes out for lewd comments. We give prizes out, Ted.
Do we know what the prize is?
Well, yeah, it's so, like, if you go to our website, VikingsReport.com, Ruby has done a tremendous job of updating the site. Drew and Ruby acquire, and they have amassed a treasure trove of Vikings jerseys, cups, mugs, knickknacks, if you will, small stocking stuffers for Christmas, if that's your gig. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. Go check it out. Great stuff over there.
You already get a prize, Miss Spice.
Oh, look at that. Sal's won a prize.
You already, for being on the show, you get a mug.
I would love to have that mug.
There we go.
You'd love to have coffee and gin
and
in
that
mug.
And that one that Drew has is a special mug because it actually has a handle on it.
It does have a handle on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you fill this thing with, Sal Spice?
Well, I don't know what I would. I'm not drinking hot beverages right now, so
What's your favorite clinky clink clink clink?
Well, I mean, tailgate season, it's spiked hot chocolate, so
what do you
could
spike
use
it
it for that. Like
Baileys?
boozy hot Baileys and whiskey. You can't just get drunk on Baileys alone. It'll take all day.
Good question by T. Kubler. Will tight end blocking help on the passing game? Will tight end help on the interior offensive line blocking? That's a good question. It's one the Vikings are looking at because they have brought in former Denver Broncos guard and 2019 second-round pick Dalton Risner in to kick the tires and in for a visit. He started all 4 years at Denver as a left guard. He played almost all their entire offensive snaps. I think he only missed 2 games in 4 years, something like that. Very durable guy. Drew, you did a write-up on Risner. Do you remember anything what you said about him?
Well,
and his write-up?
I did a write-up, and then immediately after that, I talked to Tony Bell, the great Tony Bell, who can make you smarter just by talking to him for 15 minutes. But we liked that guy, and we wanted the Vikings to draft that guy because he played
A lot of
tackle at
people
Kansas
did, yeah.
State.
Yeah.
And we used to say all the time, man, if that guy becomes a guard, he's going to dominate people because he was a good tackle at Kansas State, but a little slow in the back pedal. So we liked him. I liked him back then, and he's proven to be, like you said, pretty durable starter for Denver. What does this say about Ezra Cleveland? That's my bigger question.
Well, Chris, if you look at Risner's PFF scores and compare him to Ezra Cleveland, look, PFF, good and bad. I think it's still the best measuring stick to compare offensive linemen, defensive linemen in certain respects. He is almost the complete opposite of Ezra Cleveland. Ezra Cleveland is a very good run blocker, a very mediocre pass blocker. On contrast, Risner is a very exceptional pass blocker, mediocre run blocker. Do you think, since Risner played left guard, that he would come in and play left guard for Ezra Cleveland?
See, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I know he played left guard with the Broncos. All of his starts with the Broncos were at left guard. But when he was at Kansas State, he played on the right side. I believe he played right tackle most of the time. So it wouldn't be such a huge adjustment for him to potentially slot in for Ed Ingram at right guard instead. And if I recall, during his lead up to the draft, he kind of worked out at all 5 line positions, so he could be a potential look at center too, if they wanted to actually go that route. But I mean, I don't know if he's the kind of guy you bring in to potentially be a backup. I mean,
No.
But if he was, he would definitely have the ability to back up basically everywhere on the line. I know someone said that the tackles for the Vikings aren't the problem, and we know that they're not because their tackles are pretty outstanding. But I think they could slot him in at any one of the 3 interior spots and be all right.
Sal, do you think the Vikings are going to sign Dalton Risner, or is it just kind of a, I don't know, scaring Ezra Cleveland and Ed Ingram into maybe playing better?
Well, is he still in town? Did he leave yet?
No. I understood he left town and he has not signed a contract.
Oh, for God's sakes.
So he didn't go to Manny's.
No.
Gotta take him to Manny's. Come on.
So, I mean, honestly, if he's going to fill in for anybody, I would think it would be Ezra, because I don't see them giving up on Ed Ingram already. And if they were going to, I think it would have been back in March. I mean, that's their guy, right? So it would have to be Ezra, I think. But I don't know. I'm also wondering, why he's been a free agent all this time. Why hasn't he been picked up?
That's a good question. I mean, if he's that good, he should have been signed by now. So what's the deal? Is there a red flag we don't know about, an injury, whatever? Yeah, good point.
Great point.
Or is he holding out for, like, he wants a ton of money? At this point, he doesn't seem like he has a lot of options, unless he's banking on maybe another team will have an injury and they'll really need him. I don't know, but why bring him in if they're not flirting with the idea?
Yeah, I agree with you 100% that I think if they do sign him, it is going to be to replace Ezra Cleveland. I agree with you that Ed Ingram is their guy. They drafted him. They actually traded up and made a flurry of trades last year to end up with Ed Ingram. They're not going to cut bait on him after 1 year. And Ezra Cleveland is not their guy. I mean, he was drafted by Rick Spielman and the Mike Zimmer era, and he's not their guy. So, and add to that, one other thing is that Ezra Cleveland is a free agent at the end of the year.
Yeah.
If they sign Risner, they've got, let's say, a 2 or 3 year deal, and now that position is locked up for another 2 or 3 years, and they don't have to worry about that, Drew.
To answer Chris's question, he walks off the plane as the best guard on this team.
Yeah, probably.
He's not going to be a backup. You're not going to bring that guy in to be a backup. But along with, his flexibility along the line, you got to love that, because when the injuries start piling up, like Chris said, he can play almost all the way across the line. It was a good point by Chris to say he did play the right side at Kansas State. I know guard's different from tackle, but the right side is the right side. Ed White and Ranieri, they knew what they were doing the whole time on the right side. Yeah. So I'd be excited to sign him, but Sal Spice has a great point. Why is he still available? Why is he still on the market? I mean, is there something wrong with the guy?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I don't think it was an injury, because from what I understand, he took a physical, and if he would have failed the physical, that probably would have been reported by now. So, yeah, what's the deal? Why is this guy still on the market? But then again, Dalvin Cook is a top tier running back, and he's still on the market.
Yeah,
so maybe it's just economics at this point. I don't know. Go ahead, Sal.
I feel like with Dalvin Cook, the running backs pool is a little oversaturated. There's not many guards to choose from, and maybe there's just, again, I'm sure an injury or something will happen in training camp, and they will be more in demand. But he's the top guard left out there right now. So I don't know. It's perplexing to me. I did hear, though, that Ezra wants to be moved to tackle, and apparently he's been a little unhappy about that for a while, and maybe the Vikings aren't thrilled about that, especially that he's going into the last year of his contract, and they probably don't want to keep him anyway, so why move him?
If the Vikings were to move Ezra Cleveland to tackle to replace either Christian Darrisaw or Brian O'Neill,
right?
They're stupid. They're not going to do that.
No.
However, now the only way I could see that being a possibility is if Brian O'Neill is not completely healed from his Achilles injury. He suffered at the tail end of last season, but he was in full pads. I don't think he's practiced yet with the rest of the team, but he has been in full pads on the rehab field doing a whole bunch of different individual drills. So I don't think that's an issue either. I just think they're going to sign Risner. I think this is what's going to happen. They're going to put Ezra up on the trading block and see what they can get for him. I mean, Sal, you brought up a good point. You guys have all brought up good points about, at the end of camp, towards the beginning of the regular season, people get injured. And what really wasn't a priority when free agency hit now becomes a critical need. And if Ezra Cleveland wants to play tackle and there's a tackle on a team that's hurt, is going to be out for a while, he could be a great guy that you might want to pick up for a mid to late round pick. I don't know.
Well, and you know how this O-line goes historically speaking, so they might be playing musical chairs before you know it.
No.
God, I hope not. I hope not.
Stop. Yeah. It just seems really late to be talking about the starting guard being replaced. There's something going on. And I know he played left tackle at Boise State, Ezra Cleveland. But he's going to be a better guard than a tackle. Boise State. Who was the toughest team they played? Bologna Tech, A&M, Boise State. Yeah, but he was serviceable at tackle. But it just seems like something has happened within the last couple of weeks because that he was dialed in at the 2 months ago. He was the left guard.
I didn't think Ezra Cleveland would be a guy they'd be looking to replace, but things happen. It's the NFL. John Erico, Ezra and a Rick Spielman special. Deal him for a 5th round pick. Look, that's enough. I've seen enough. John Erico, you won a prize. Get a hold of Ruby at VikingsReport, at Gmail. VikingsReport, at gmail.com. Hook him up with a prize, Ruby. All right. That's the offense. The one part of this team that everybody is worried about is the Vikings defense. Danielle Hunter signed his contract, so much like the Mr. Mankato tradition, we have Danielle Hunter's contract situation resolved, and everybody's happy. He wants to be a Viking forever, he said, which translates to the end of the 2023 season when he can cash in on a huge free agent contract.
Mm-hmm. Exactly
Sal,
right.
I'm so done. I'm so done with Hunter's yearly "I don't like my contract" spiel.
It's interesting. I am as well, but none of these off seasons when he's been disgruntled about his contract has he ever made them or another team sign him to a long-term contract. So if that's your goal, I mean, I would think if I were him, especially given the terrible injury history that he had those 2 seasons, very serious injuries, neck injuries, I would want the longest deal I could get. So it's very weird how it keeps going in these little yearly increments. Or even the 3-year one, which you knew really wasn't going to be a 3-year one.
Right. Yeah.
Chris, I don't
know. There was talk. I mean, and people just get irritated with it every year, and said, "All right, fine, trade them, whatever." Do you think the Vikings ever? I mean, I know they took offers, and they because you entertain offers for players. Do you think the Vikings were ever really serious about trading Danielle Hunter?
I mean, I don't think they were. I mean, I don't think they could be because, you're not going to get the kind of return that you're going to get for a player like Danielle Hunter. I mean, I know we've talked about it on the show before, and we've talked about how the sort of deal that the Raiders got when they traded Khalil Mack to the Bears should be sort of, what you'd be looking at in a potential Danielle Hunter deal. But, I don't know if anybody's going to give that up. And if you're not going to get value for the guy, I mean, you don't get better by just automatically trading your best players away. And, the defense was rough last year, but Hunter, after those two seasons where he dealt with all those injuries, was one of the few bright spots on that defense last year. And, he's still young enough where after this season, if he plays well, he can cash in again, and we'll see how it goes with that. But I don't think they were ever actually seriously thinking about shipping him out, just because, like I said, you're not going to get commensurate value for a guy of Hunter's caliber.
Drew, we talked about this a few times since our midsummer hiatus. Did you think a trade of Hunter was ever a serious possibility, just considering how many unknowns there are on defense right now?
Of course, you listen to everybody, because people have made dumb trades over the years and give you, I imagine the price is pretty steep, but you can't. Some people are generational players. I heard 2 weeks ago somebody say, this is why it makes sense to trade Justin Jefferson. No, it doesn't make any sense, because these players don't come along that often. Hunter is the best defensive end. When he started out, he looked like he was going to be Bruce Smith. And I think he's going to get back to that this year. I think they might have listened to some options or something, but I don't think they ever wanted to trade. I know Flores didn't want to trade him. Flores needs that guy. We got a bunch of youngsters running around on defense. We need Harrison Smith and Hunter to round these guys up and say, listen, this is how you do it professionally. Because the Vikings are really young on defense. Not that that's going to necessarily be bad. It's a concern, but I don't think they ever wanted to lose Hunter, because he is a generational player. He's not just a normal defensive end. When that guy's healthy, intent on playing football, he is a great, great player.
Sal, who's going to start on the defensive line besides Danielle Hunter? Because I have no freaking idea right now. I really don't. The Harrison Phillips and Danielle Hunter, and then Katie bar the door. Bob's your uncle. We'll use whatever phrase you want. I don't care. I just don't know.
I have no idea. I mean, are they going to keep Wanham now? I mean, is he going to be on the trading block? How many are they even going to keep? Like, it's so unknown what they're going to do, I feel like. And who is Flores really going to think stands out and who he can work with in the future as well? It's kind of crazy. But that's the most exciting thing about this offseason. I don't feel like there's been an offseason this exciting in a long time, because there's just so many unknowns on the defense and what it's going to look like after this. And for the last few years, I feel like it's just kind of been like same old thing, same old thing.
Yeah. It's exciting to see the new blood come in and the new regime, and it is exciting. I agree.
One thing that strikes me a little bit different about this year with the new defensive coordinator and last year is that you didn't hear a lot of great things about the defense in training camp. I mean, you heard individual things. It seems like, and this is probably just me being the Pollyanna fan that I am, that guys like Brian Asamoah and Caleb Evans and Mekhi Blackman, Ivan Pace Jr.,
Lewis Cine
seems to be having a good camp. All these guys seem to be excelling so far, or playing better and adapting very well to the Brian Flores offense. Chris, are you getting that vibe as well, or am I just being way too optimistic about all this, as I always am this time of year?
No, I don't think so. I mean, after what we watched with the Ed Donatel scheme last year, it's nice to see reports. You see things on social media. Oh, Harrison Smith would have had 3 quarterback sacks today. I mean, that dude needs to be used a whole lot differently than what Donatel did with him last year. But when you see things like that, someone like Harrison Smith, who's been here since, right, he's in his 12th season now.
2012,
and, yeah, he's been around for a while, and now there have been reports of his demise, kind of like he's lost a step or whatever. But I mean, that in that defense last year, everybody looked like they had lost a step. So I mean, I don't know, but it's worth getting excited over. I think with a lot of the younger guys and even some of the veterans like a Harrison Smith or a Daniil Hunter or some of these other guys. But yeah, I think it's going to be a whole lot more interesting to see what this defense does during the preseason and what happens going forward, because the defense has a lot of young talent to be excited about, and it's going to be interesting to see what Flores does to get them all meshed together.
Sal, one thing I've loved about you, following you on Twitter for as long as I have, is that you're a very realistic fan, and we have a lot of similar feelings on the Vikings at a lot of different points in the season. Give me a reality check. Is this defense? Do you think this defense could be legit, or am I just being way too optimistic over these young guys in Flores?
Well, we all know it can't be worse, right? So
see, I said that last year, and it was. It was. I said it could be worse than 2021. It was worse.
Yeah. Yes, of course. But God, it can't happen again, right? It can't.
It can't.
It just can't. I mean, I think they could maybe make it up as high as like 20th in the rankings. They're probably more like a 24, 25.
Ooh,
but it's just so dependent on there's just so many unknowns, like we've just said. I mean, who knows who's going to be on the team at all. I do want to say, though, I think it's very interesting that the two veterans that they still have, Smith and Hunter, are probably the quietest guys that they've had that were veterans. I mean, compared to last year, Patrick Peterson, huge motivator, huge locker room guy. Eric Kendricks, same thing. They don't really have that voice on defense. I'm sure that those guys are different behind closed doors, maybe, but it's a little different. Yeah. So I wonder who's going to take on for that role.
I'm thinking Flores.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And I think guys like Smith and Hunter are lead by example guys.
Sure.
Yes.
And I mean, you're a young guy, and you look at Harrison Smith's been in the league 12 years. You're just taking mental notes on just about everything he does, because he's been a top player at his position for as long as he's been in the league. Drew, we talked about the defense more than once this past off season. Are you getting excited about some of these guys, or do you think this is just training camp hype like we see every year?
Well, whenever you put a bunch of young players together that haven't played together, there's going to be bumps in the road.
Yeah.
And I don't have the schedule in front of me. The Vikings, I'm sure the defense will be much better by Halloween than they are at the beginning of the season, because naturally they'll progress working together, the chemistry, where the other guy's going to be. Asamoah knows where Jordan Hicks is going to be, that, this, that, just being together and learning Flores defense. Mm-hmm. Fine. But up till Halloween, you can't tank it and lose a bunch of games on big, giant touchdown plays because your secondary's lost and don't know what they're doing. That's what I'm worried about, the reps. How many reps can these guys get in before the season, including preseason, to get this defense down as much as possible? Because teams what are they going to have? 4 or 5 new defensive players?
Minimum, I think, if not more.
It's difficult.
Just to echo what Drew said, I know the cornerbacks were pretty rough for the Vikings last season, but if you look at the position now, I mean, your top 6 guys on the cornerback depth chart for the Vikings last year were Patrick Peterson, who's gone, Shannon Sullivan, who's gone, Cameron Dantzler, who's gone, Duke Shelley, who's gone, Andrew Booth Jr., who can't stay on the field, and Caleb Evans, who also can't stay on the field. So you got a bunch of dudes. I think Drew said something before the show. The Vikings have 4 corners on the roster that have never seen an NFL field before. Mm-hmm. And they could be playing significant roles at that position, because your senior guys now. I mean, they brought in Byron Murphy Jr., who was a heck of a signing, I think, but a lot of those other guys just don't have the experience. They've had the injury issues like Booth and Evans have. You got Mekhi Blackman, you got Jay Ward, who might be able to play a little bit of corner, but it's a whole new. Basically, nobody in that cornerback room knows each other at this point. They're all a bunch of new guys. I mean, everyone that had experience at the position last year isn't here anymore.
So Vicologist checks in with the reality check that I needed. He said, remember when Donatel said fans were going to love what they see before the Giants playoff game? So, all right, fair point.
To be fair, Donatel didn't specify whose fans.
Go ahead, Drew.
True.
No, before
True.
we kick it to Sal Spice to get her idea on these corners or what she thinks about it, let me run this list really quick because it's pretty telling.
All right.
NFL games: Kalen Barnes 2, Mekhi Beckman 0, Andrew Booth Jr. 6, C.J. Colden 0, Caleb Evans 10, Tay Gowan 5, Byron Murphy 56, Najee Thompson 0, Joe Juan, Mary Jane Williams 36, Theo Jackson, not Tito, Theo Jackson 11, Jalen Williams 0. That means between Byron Murphy and Joejuan Williams, out of the 126 total games by the entire group, they consist of 92 of them. The other 9 guys have played 34 NFL games.
Wow.
The other 9 have played 34 total, and you got to have depth. I don't know. I'm concerned, but it's one of those wait and see things. And that's probably my biggest concern of the team of the corners, along with the interior defensive line.
Drew, you mentioned you nicknamed somebody Mary Jane. Just happy legal marijuana day in the state of Minnesota. You might need some. It sounds like watching the Vikings secondary this year.
I've never inhaled, but I did fail my physical. Well, do you guys think? I mean, they safety is looking pretty good. Do you think that anyone can move over from safety to help out with the cornerback situation?
Cam Bynum played a lot of corner at Cal.
Yeah.
Yeah, Josh. Yeah, Josh Patel. I think. Do you remember it was 2-3 years ago, whatever it was? Who was the Viking safety they used in that? They called it the big nickel formation.
Sendejo?
Harris?
No, Anthony Harris. That's it. They used, and they had Anthony Harris in that big nickel, the Zimmer, and it actually worked pretty well.
Right.
It would not surprise me if they do something like that. That said, I like. It sounds like Byron Murphy and Caleb Evans have kind of started out as your top corners. Mekhi Blackman, the rookie 3rd rounder out of USC,
yes,
working in with the first team. I mean, he's getting a little bit more playing time with the first team every day, and that just is encouraging.
He likes Mekhi Blackman.
What you got? What are you gonna go rob a bank, dude?
Let's go. We need good corner player. We're gonna get picked apart.
J-Ron. Oh, that's our buddy Lou Krieger pops in. Dave Stefano pops in. It was J-Ron Curse that was in the big nickel formation.
Yep.
Good call, buddy.
What up, good Dave call. Stefano?
So, yeah, Sal, to answer your question, I don't think normally teams keep 6 corners. I think it might be like 5 and 5 in terms of safeties, and I think they're going to keep an extra guy just because you get past 3 or 4 dudes in the cornerback room, and you got a whole lot of nothing. I mean, that hasn't really shown anything so far. Am I dumb, Chris?
Yeah.
I mean, I am dumb.
No.
I mean, but rhetorical.
Not
focus specifically on this.
No, not in this particular instance, no. But no, you've heard a lot of stuff about Lewis Cine and his recovery. And he's been doing well. Josh Metellus has apparently stepped up in a big way. I mean, he's been really good on special teams the last couple of years, and has apparently stepped up into a bigger role on defense. So I think you're probably right. You might see that big nickel with like 3 safeties. Depending on how other teams line up and that sort of thing, because they might have the personnel to do it if Cine's recovery is going as well as it is, and they can line up, Harrison Smith and Cam Bynum and Jay Ward and whoever at safety, and let guys like Metellus kind of roam in that area like Curse used to.
Yeah, Drew. I mean, how do you feeling about the secondary? I mean, you kind of given a little bit in terms of just the inexperience. Do you like the potential, though?
I do.
Okay.
I do. And we talked about the locker room. We talked about the locker room guy who's going to step up and be in the locker room. He's a rookie, considered a rookie because he only played a little bit before the horrible injury last year. Lewis Cine is one of those guys. He was that guy at Georgia. He was that guy that was a team everything on the sidelines and locker room, even out on the field. He was instructing people where to go. He would be the first person to congratulate somebody on a tackle. The guy loves football. The guy is fearless, and I think he will become a big leader. And learning under Harrison Smith, they're going to have that has potential of being crazy good. And I know Smith is Smith's a great guy. Besides football and everything, he's a low key guy, but that guy, I imagine he'd be great to learn from. So I think I'm not worried about the safety position as much as I am the corner position, because I know what Lewis Seen can do. Lewis Seen can be a special player.
No, it is not wrong that you miss Duke Shelley. John Erico, I miss Duke Shelley. We all miss Duke Shelley.
Why didn't they sign
I miss Duke Shelley.
Sal Spice, give us this Duke Shelley. Why didn't they re-sign that guy?
I don't know. I was devastated. He was my favorite player last year. He was the only one who, he stepped up and he made a big impact. He won the Buffalo game for them. I mean, come on.
He did.
He sure did.
Sal,
he literally came in off the street and go ahead. What was that, Drew?
I want to know where she was for the Buffalo game.
I was at a
What were
bar.
you doing?
I was at a bar in North Loop watching it
That
there.
must have been crazy in there when Josh.
It
Allen
was crazy.
When Kendricks recovered that fumble. Holy shit!
Oh my gosh, it was so stressful. Like, why am I watching this? Why am I watching this in public? Is what I was thinking. Oh my god, it was really stressful, but it was obviously a super memorable game. I wish I was there.
Yeah. So Duke Shelley took his talents to Las Vegas for an extra $1 million, which he has already allegedly gambled away. No, I don't think he's not done that. But I mean, it's Vegas. Who wouldn't?
They could have gave him a little more money, though. I mean, he's better than half the guys that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Even if he was just a rotational guy, I didn't get that. Why they spent the time, working with him? Why not give him a little more money?
I think it's a mistake letting him go.
Yeah. Well, I bet he's going to have a breakout
too,
season. Pro Bowl for Duke Shelley.
Hall of Fame, homeboy.
Exactly.
So, all right. So, Sal, earlier you said you thought 20 kind of was maybe the ceiling for the Vikings defense, 24, 25. Chris, where do you see this Vikings? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, Drew talked a little bit about the schedule, and by Halloween they should be better. But they have some really big challenges with week 2 against the Eagles. That might hurt that 20 ranking because I think the numbers are really going to drown them there again. And then they have Patrick Mahomes the first week of October or something. So,
yep,
going to be learning on the job.
I'm telling you right now, the Vikings are going to win one of those 2 games. I'm telling you.
Well, certainly not Philadelphia. So,
see, now I think Philadelphia is their best chance because it's a brand new defensive scheme. There's not going to be a lot of what they do on tape yet, and they're going to have a lot of athletic dudes pissed off, flying around, and ready to create havoc. I'm telling you, they're going to win one. They're going to win one of those 2 games.
And I think they're going to lose the Eagles game because of everything Ted just said. They have a bunch of new players.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Eagles talk about an offense. Besides us, probably the scariest offense in the league.
I mean, they're going to lose to the Panthers. Don't get me wrong. I mean, because that's the one game a year. Whatever.
It's the Vikings, man.
But they're going to win one of those 2 games. Mark my words.
Ted, no. Prime time, Philadelphia. Okay. Are you new here?
I'm not new. I'm hopelessly optimistic. It's July. 17-0 Super Bowl, homeboy. Let's go.
Yeah, she's good. She's good, Ted.
I like Charlie Brown every year.
Maybe 16-1, but it ain't going to be Philadelphia.
All right.
It's going to be fun. I'm excited about the whole season more than I have been the last couple years. It's before when Zimmer was here, it was like I was excited, but I'm really excited now because of the changes and at least we're trying something to move forward.
Freddie asks over or under 8.5 wins. We'll go around the room here. Sally, we'll start with you. Over or under 8.5 wins?
Over. Probably
Chris.
9 or 10.
Okay, that's still over though.
Yeah. Yep, I'm going over as well.
Drew.
I'll go over. 17-0. We win every game by 50.
There you go.
Wow.
I think over. I think 10 or 11 wins is realistic for this year. I think they're going to be a better team this year with a worse record than last year, if that makes any sense at all.
Do they win the division, Sal Spice?
Oh my gosh. See, I feel like I'm one of the few people worried about the division because
The Lions.
The Lions are the Lions. I get it. But
They're good,
they
though.
are definitely trending up. I think that they are going to build on last season and be better. I think they will compete for the division. The Bears are not going to be as bad as they have been. I don't know if you can count on them for a sweep. And then the Packers are just such an unknown. I think everyone is banking on them being terrible. I don't know how realistic that is. So
Okay.
I think they will win the division, but yeah, they're absolutely not getting anywhere close. Well, I shouldn't say anywhere close. They're not getting 13 wins for sure, but they should win the division.
Yeah, they're not getting all those last-second wins, and the Buffalo game was 1 in a million. So those I don't think they're going to be as fortunate.
They kind of screwed themselves though, because now they've got a first-place schedule too,
right?
Whereas the Lions don't. So
Bears are going to be butt.
Yeah, the Bears. The Bears are going to be warmed over ass. Justin Fields sucks. I'm sorry, I don't care.
I'm still not convinced that he sucks.
He sucks. He's terrible. He was great at Ohio State. I loved him at Ohio State. The dude reads a defense like Helen Keller. He's completely blind.
I don't think it's his fault, though. I think it's everyone else's fault.
Ted and Chris, what do you think? Division or not division?
Oh, they're going to win the division.
Okay.
And they're going to win at least one playoff game this year.
Yep.
You know what?
I'm
Ruby, kick her off right now. No, I do. I don't think. Well, there's a lot of things I don't think about a lot. To me, it all depends on this defense. There's so much inexperience on this defense; they could completely crater. I'm fully aware of that. But like Sal said, look, they can't be any worse than they were last year. They have got to be better, and at least they're going to give up big plays. Drew and I talked about this on our last show. I think they're going to give up a lot of big plays, but I also think they're going to make a lot of big plays. I think it's going to be a very feast or famine type defense and opportunistic. And I think hopefully by midseason, if they can at least get to the first 8 or 9 games at 4-4 or 5-4, this team has a very good chance to gel and go on a pretty decent run. Or nobody's going to know what the hell's going on, and they're going to end up going like 4-13.
You know, real quick, football comes down to that handful of plays. NFL football has, at least it hasn't changed in the last 50 years I've been watching it. As Bud Gratt used to say, it comes down to a handful, 5-6 plays. One team makes them, one team doesn't. Everybody's good. It's the NFL. It's that handful of plays I'm worried about. The coverage mix-up where Hurts throws some guy an 80-yard bomb and there's nobody covering him. That's mainly what I'm not worried about the talent. I'm worried about the scheme and everybody learning it. The talent is there. The talent is there for the Vikings to go wherever they want to go. But it's just are they familiar enough with how each other plays, and learning Flores' thing? Like I said, up till Halloween is going to be a big test. We can't lose a bunch of games because of mistakes.
Yeah, I agree. Drew, you had a question you wanted to ask us before we get out of here and gave away the prize. What was that?
I wanted to ask each of you, give me the part of the Vikings team you're most confident with. 1, 2, 3 things, whatever. There's no limit on how many you like as the choices. And give me what you're mainly concerned with going into the 2023 season.
Sally, since you're our honored guest, we'll start with you.
Well, most confidence, I think, is kind of a no-brainer. It's the wide receiver core with JJ, Addison, and KJ. They're going to be the new 3 deep. Back, 1998, this is going to be the new version. As far as what I'm stressed about, I think that the backfield as a whole that we just said, so I'm not trying to be repetitive. Well, we can bring up, what do we think of the kicking controversy? Is that something to be worried about?
We're the Vikings. Our kicker's always going to be a problem.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, those are the 2 things, I guess.
Okay. Chris, what do you got?
I'm going to kind of echo what Sal just said. The most confidence, obviously. I'm going to go with, I'm just going to say the pass catchers as a whole, because you have to include TJ Hawkinson in any sort of conversation about who's going to be catching passes from Kirk Cousins. They're just so solid there between Jefferson and Hawkinson and Osborne and Addison, that they're going to be among the best groups there in the league. And we went over it, but it's got to be the cornerback spot because they're just so young, so inexperienced. Everybody on this team that had any experience is gone now, and between being young and inexperienced and having to adjust to what's going to be a much more aggressive scheme under Brian Flores, there's going to be some growing pains. I mean, by the end of the season, the defensive ranking might not be super impressive, but it's going to be one of those things where, by the time we get to the end of the regular season, we'll have seen the improvement from the defense and, how they can carry that forward, hopefully into the postseason. But yeah, my big concern is the secondary here, I think, specifically the corners.
The one thing I'm most confident in right now is Kirk Cousins. You guys talked about the guys being able to catch balls and all that. That's cool. You don't have a guy like Kirk right now. And I can't believe I'm saying this because I was not a Kirk guy when he first came to the Vikings. But he's turned it around. I mean, he is dealing, and he's got Justin Jefferson and him are on a different level. He's got Jordan Addison, and it sounds like they have developed or are developing a pretty good chemistry. He's going to have T.J. Hawkinson for an entire season. Josh Oliver is sort of flying under the radar, and you've got this backfield of guys that all four seem to be like they are good at catching passes out of the backfield. So, yeah, the pass catchers, that's great, but that all starts with Kirk. I think Kirk is going to deal this year. On defense, it's the front seven. I know I asked the question kind of half jokingly, who the hell's going to start on the defensive line and the linebackers? I mean, I don't know. I mean, outside of Harrison Phillips, Daniil Hunter, and maybe Brian.
What about Davenport? We didn't talk about Davenport.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard much of Marcus Davenport in training camp. I mean, he's first round talent, but the guy's been kind of quiet so far. I just don't know.
One guy that I don't think we've mentioned enough, and I don't think we've heard anything about him really in camp either, but that's going to play a significant role on defense is our guy, Kairos Tonga.
Yes.
Who came in last year, and he had a hell of a season, the 6 or 8 weeks he was there last year. Yeah, with Dalvin Tomlinson having departed and whatnot, and I think he's going to be a starter this year, and I think he's going to be a really solid addition. I don't know, would they play him at the nose? Would they move Harrison Phillips out to an end spot? Because he seems like the perfect nose tackle for a 3-4 kind of scheme, but I think he's going to be a guy we talk a lot about this season in helping this defense improve.
And hopefully so is Jaquelin Roy, the rookie 4th rounder out of LSU. Sounds like he's been having a couple of good days at camp as well. But again, it's just so many unknowns. We talked about the cornerbacks, and that's very legit. But there's just as much inexperience on the front seven, and if they can't bring pressure, when the opponent goes back to pass, the corners are going to get cooked. It doesn't matter how good these guys and how talented they are. So, Drew, what you asked the question, now you get to answer. What's the thing you're most confident and worried about?
You guys pretty much covered it all. I mean, worried about the corner group, the interior of the defensive line. What?
Weak. That's a weak cop-out answer.
No, I don't have a cop-out answer. Believe it or not, I'm going to go off the board here. I'm going to give you something that not many people think of. I know the offense is juggernaut and all this. Last year, and I had a lot of discussions about David Stefano, who checked in earlier. Hey, Dave, we talked about the 30-point mark, the Mendoza offensive mark. Mm-hmm. We should get to 30 every week. They should have. And this goes back to my claim that the offense is not aggressive enough. They're not aggressive enough. They're just as not aggressive as when Zimmer was here. They need to change it up, change the pace, go for the jugular. Listen, last year it took the Vikings until Game 7 versus the Cardinals to get to 30 points.
Wow, really?
And they only had 30 points 4 times.
Wow.
They're going to get
4 games out of 17. They had 30. The offense last year should have been at 30 every week. And I'm going to look at that this. You can't go down there and settle for field goals. You can't get turnovers in the other team's territory and settle for field goals after you have a 3 and out. They need to get that together. They need to. I know O'Connell's a great play caller inside the 10, which Zimmer wasn't. I love that. But come on, we got to start putting people away. We can't be hanging around it. Like, what about that Bears game last year? Ridiculous.
They're going to get 30. They're going to get 35 in Philly.
They better. They had teams. They had teams on the ropes, and then the next
They did.
you're beating the Bears 20-0 or something. Then they're leading.
21. Yeah.
You got to go
That's a
after.
good point.
You can't be nice, head coach. You can't be nicey. You got to kick people's ass like Belichick. Pour it on.
All right. Oh, go ahead, Sal.
I was just gonna say I must have blacked that game out. I don't even remember that happening.
Oh, they went up 21-0. Yeah, they went up 21-0 at home.
Oh,
it
at
was
home.
fairly
Week
early.
5, the one
Yeah,
that
early.
ended with Dantzler stripping Amir Smith-Marset at the end, and
Right.
Oh yeah.
If
Okay.
Fields ran that long touchdown that got called back, if that doesn't get called back, you probably lose that game.
All right. I must have blacked that out. I don't
When
remember
you're
it
up
at all.
20-0, you can't start running it up the middle in the second
that
quarter.
was the game Kirk completed like his first 19 passes in a row or something like that. He set a new Vikings record or whatever the hell it was. Yeah.
I know this from watching my college team, and Ted knows it from watching Ohio State. Our teams are up 45-0 throwing bombs in the third quarter. Come on. There's no rule against stop being nice, kill people. Come on, let's go.
Sally's a Gophers fan, so she wouldn't know anything about that with PJ Fleck as the head coach. Sorry, I'm kidding. It's a joke.
I'm a very, 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 very casual Gophers fan. Very casual.
All right.
At least none of us are Iowa fans. That would be we wouldn't know what offense was at all.
They had 5 touchdowns last year offensively.
All right, Ruby, are you ready to spin the wheel?
I am ready. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear. How are you?
I am good. Let me share my screen. Hold on a sec. Can you see it?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
All right.
That's also what she said. Sorry. It's terrible.
Here we go.
This is so exciting.
Brad?
Oh.
Brad Hannum.
Congratulations, Brian Haddam. You've won tonight's Toots' Wheel of Destiny prize. Get a hold of Ruby at Vikings Report, Drew and Ted at gmail.com. She'll send you a link to the Vikings Report prize vault, and you could get a pick of prizes like we talked about earlier. All right, look, we've kind of gone over. That's okay. Sal, once again, thanks so much for joining us. Tell us where we can find you and all that good stuff one more time for the good people.
Sal Spice on all social medias, and then my link is in the bio. Sports and the City podcast, Believe in Vikings podcast with Bryant McKinney and Dustin Baker. And now I'll be working with Tailgate Spices, so lots to come there.
Nice. Looking forward to that.
You can hopefully find me in the tailgate lot, hopefully. They lost my application, supposedly, so not looking good. Yeah.
Well, hopefully you get that. Hopefully you get that resolved by
hour and 10
the
minutes.
home game.
Yes,
All righty.
hopefully.
All right. Drew, you got anything? Or Chris, you got anything before we get out of here?
No, I mean it's nice to be back with you guys again. I mean, it was nice to have Sal join us for an episode here. It was awesome to have the extra input. And no, Drew was either frozen or he was having a stroke. I don't know what happened to Drew. But,
I've been told his battery died. We've been talking so long, his battery on his computer died.
Oh man! But no, it's always great doing this with you guys, and it's a good way to kind of kick the rust off before the season gets underway. And yeah, we're looking forward to everything that the Vikings are going to give us over the next 5 or 6 months.
Love the Four Horsemen shirt, Chris. Real quick, Drew's battery died. Sal, he wants to know who your favorite Spice Girl was.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he has to ask. I mean, does he not see my hair here? I mean, it's obviously Ginger Spice, but I can talk about that all day, so we better wrap it up. Yeah, Jerry Halliwell.
All righty. Well, for Sal, for Drew, whose battery died, for Chris, for Ruby, thanks so much for joining us again. Hit us up on Vikes Report, Drew and Ted on our YouTube channel, your favorite podcast platform, whatever. Skol Vikings, and we will see you next week. No studio show this week. We'll be back in studio next week. Take care, everybody.
Bye. Thanks for having me.